Well, good morning and welcome to our second STEAM week, our Real World Wednesday speaker series with real professionals in STEAM professions. I'm Dustin Seaton, the Gifted and Talented Specialist at the Northwest Arkansas Co-op. And Carly?
Oh, I'm Carly Janolis. I'm the Science Specialist at the Northwest Arkansas Co-op.
And we have Jenny?
I'm Jenny.
Yeah, and I'm Jenny Gamble. I am the Elementary STEM Specialist at the Northwest Arkansas Co-op.
And we see students all across Northwest Arkansas have joined us. We had pre-submitted questions for our career professionals today. And we're really excited to be joined by the one and only Rick Katzfey at KNWA and Fox News. So thank you, Rick, for joining us this morning. We started this morning by saying how we all watch you every morning.
Awesome.
Tell us what the weather's like for the day and the forecast. So thank you for joining us. And there are already questions from students all across Northwest Arkansas that are coming in the chat. Some quick housekeeping. Students, you don't have to worry about muting, unmuting, turn your cameras on or off. We are using the Zoom webinar feature. We are also recording. So if you have a bell that goes off and you have to go to class, no worries. We'll have this all recorded, available on the Northwest Arkansas Education Service Co-op Facebook page, and hopefully we can get it added on our website as well. If you have questions live, you can use the chat feature at the bottom and to make comments, or the Q&A box. We'll be checking that sporadically throughout this morning. But I don't want to take up any more time because I'm excited to learn and hear from Rick Katzfey himself. So with that said, Carla, I'm going to turn it over to you to ask our first pre-submitted question.
Yeah. So Rick, we have some students, and I think us also, just kind of wondering what a typical day in your job is, or what it looks like.
Well, some people say, I get up at about 2:30 every morning. A lot of folks will say that's still night.
Yeah.
But I get up early in the morning, and then it just kind of depends on the weather. It could be earlier, never later. But if it's stormy, it would tend to be earlier. So I get up early in the morning, and the first thing I do is when I get my coffee and I head to work, is I get to look at the forecast models. All right. These are computer models that are sent out sometimes hourly, but multiple times during the day. And it kind of gives us guidance on how the weather is going to behave that day, and also throughout a long range forecast. So that's some of the first things I do is get the forecast ready, spend time making my forecast. And the reason why I do that is because I'm pretty particular when it comes to the forecasts. No one's going to beat me. I will challenge anybody. I've done this a long time, and I take a lot of pride in that. It's certainly easy to grab what a National Weather Service would say and go, okay, here's the forecast. This is what they say. I'm just going to kind of cruise on their tail and do that. But I don't like to do that. I went to college for this. And so for me, being able to forecast the weather as accurate as possible, trying to find the small details in it is exciting. And the cool thing about when I arrive in the morning, I know a lot of you remember like Christmas morning, right? How excited you were about the presents under the tree. They're wrapped. You have no idea what's inside. That's how excited I am when I get a chance to see the new model information, because every time you come in the morning, it's different. It changes. And it's also forecasting interesting things in the future. So to me, those computer models are just fascinating. And so I get a chance to open the present to see what is new for today. And kind of a little insight with me is that if I ever say, then we got something going on. And I've told my colleagues, I go, if you ever hear me say, then it's like, okay, this is interesting. And, something big is getting ready to happen. So that's the first part. All right. That's just forecasting. Then I go right to radio. I get my radio broadcast on KLRC, Cumulus broadcast stations in Northwest Arkansas, East Oklahoma, and the River Valley. It goes out to a lot of numerous folks there to get that information out there. I do several recordings for Facebook, our Facebook pages, also on my Twitter page. I'll do that. And then we get ready for the show. The show starts at 5 a.m. on the nose. So when we hear, things like deadlines, we have a deadline like, hey, we need to get this done by end of business today. For me, our deadline is 3, 2, 1, go. You're on. So it's down to the second which is a little different than a lot of businesses around here. We're like on it to the T. Hey, we're going to go 2 minutes and 30 seconds on this weathercast. And then, it's like that. And then, so we do the shows. We have a lot of interaction between our anchors. I throw in humor as much as I can. I try to make it as conversational as I can. And at that point, we finish the show. And when I'm done, I'm pretty much done for the day, which is about 8 o'clock in the morning. Y'all are getting ready for school.
Yeah.
I'm done.
You've been up all night, is what we feel like.
Yes. That's a long answer. Hope that wasn't too long, but that kind of explains the day of what a broadcast meteorologist does.
Well, and I think it's so much more than what we think, right? I mean, because so much goes into that. I guess I wouldn't have thought of that. Like, you have to look at every piece of data or all of the weather. I mean, that morning, it's not like you can prep that the night before.
Yeah, you can sometimes. Weather is like an art. It's a science. It's also math. It's all that. It's also technology. I mean, when you talk about STEM, I'm touching every bit of that multiple times a day. So but it's also an art. Whereas that if you kind of watch the flow of the atmosphere and how things are spinning and churning and moving, you kind of get an idea of, okay, seen this before, here comes this thing. And you can kind of progress its movement. So there's art to it too. So from what I've learned from the day before, it's like, hey, I've seen this before. This is not surprising. Here's the forecast.
Right. I'm going to be listening for that.
Yes. I say it sometimes on the air. I'll go, today I said, So it's something we need to watch for, whatever. But, yeah. I don't see it in the next 10 days, at least right now. I don't. Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, it's coming.
Well, Rick, I'm curious to know what led you into this profession. I grew up in Eastern Arkansas on the prairie. We've experienced multiple tornadoes. I still will never forget when I read trampoline. So the base of the trampoline was red and it landed on our neighbor's white car, one house over. They tried to sue and my dad's an attorney. So act of God, they weren't able to, but I've been fascinated with the weather from a very early age. And honestly, at times I wish I had been a meteorologist. I really love the weather.
Still time, Jenny.
So there's still time. I'm only in my mid 40s.
You cannot take her from me though. I need her.
So, was there some sort of experience you had when you were younger that led you into this profession, or what was it?
I don't think I was struck by lightning.
Okay.
I don't think that happened. I can't guarantee that happened. When I was 5 years old, I got interested in weather, and I don't know why. But we lived in Kansas, and Kansas, kind of a flat state. You can see forever, and so we would watch storms come in. Toward our house. And for some reason, I got into that. I mean, the clouds were incredible. Some of the clouds I still remember coming over the house. So something was fascinating to me when I was just 5 years old. That's where we can base it back to. I have drawings, crayon drawings in third grade where I drew a house that had all kinds of weather in it. The house was on fire because of lightning. There were dark clouds over the top of it. One of the trees was knocked over. And so a lot of weather being played there. The picture's worth 1,000 words. That pretty much summed it up. And I went back and went through some of my folders. I go, look at this. I was really into weather back in that age. Yeah. So third grade. Now, I got to say, I didn't go and become a meteorologist out of high school. That was not no. I went to work, back then it was like, no, go get a job. There's some good paying jobs up there. My common sense will take me a long way. And it wasn't until I was 27 years old, I said, you know what? Here's what I was. I was on top of a very tall tower at a chemical factory making fertilizer in Lawrence, Kansas, watching clouds come in, watching a tornado about 5 miles away from the plant. It was hailing on me. Big hail was hitting my hard hat. All right. And I told myself at that point, I go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to quit. I'm going to go back and be a meteorologist. Because if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it. Now, all right, a lot of students, maybe not the STEM folks, but a lot of students would go, oh, there's no way I can do that because I can't do math. I can't do science. I can't. Well, I was in the same situation. I went back to college after 8 years of taking kind of a lenient school program, and I go, I got to practice math, I got to do science, I got to do computer, all this stuff. And so what I did was I was scared to death. I go, if I do this, I can't fail. Okay, so I'm going to start something and I got to keep going. So I made math my foreign language. I go, I got to do math. I've got to have a foundation. And so let's start with 2 + 2 = 4. And if I can build that foundation in math, I can advance to the next level. All right. So my next level was fractions. And then we were doing algebra, and then we were doing calculus, and then we were doing differential equations. And it turns out math was one of my favorite subjects. I learned that it was a game. It's like, oh, wow, this is a hide and seek game. You guys are hiding that one thing I'm trying to find. So I kind of did it that way. And what I was fearful of became my strength. So graduated at 20, graduated at 32.
Wow.
Started becoming a meteorologist, went on television and kind of flourished at that point. I was kind of driven. So moved up pretty quick.
So it never is too late, Carly. You may be seeing me on KNWA in a few years.
Hey, let's go together, because now
I'm a late bloomer.
sold.
Yeah, I'm a late bloomer, and it works. It works. There's nothing wrong with starting school. At least do something that you like to do. You know, I knew when I was a kid, I loved what I was doing. I was playing in the sand pile when I was a freshman in high school, by the way, which is like a lot of people kind of going, "You're playing in the sand pile?" But I was actually building ditches and roads, and then I was flooding them to watch the water go through the rivers, the bottoms that I created. And so I was doing a lot of that stuff. And so when I went to college, suddenly I knew a lot more than what the seniors were graduating with from college knew. I already knew that stuff because I'd been studying it unknowingly as a kid. So I get the point is there is something that all of our students are watching right now. I'm sorry, getting dark, it's getting sunny. A lot of our students do right now. They don't realize that could be their next job. It could be their next career. It could be their next business. But there's something you're doing that you really like, and you always go back to. What is that? Look at that, and that may be your next career. I did it. That's my story, and so that's why I always try to encourage kids with that.
Rick, I think you could give that speech to like every high school senior. I think they all need to hear that. That is
Agree.
Such
Agree.
good advice.
It's never too late to,
I love it.
you know,
Now you're our local celebrity, so we appreciate your insight. I want to go to our first question from a student at Central Junior High in Springdale in a career class development. They said they're asking you, how many people are working behind the scenes to bring about the weather in such a quick pace?
Yeah. Sometimes I make it too quick too, but typically in the morning, for example, it's me. I'm the only guy there doing weather. We have a lot of our production assistants though behind the scene that helps me get the camera shot, the lighting, the timing of what I'm doing, what we're doing as a group. There are people like, if you've ever seen like Kennedy Space Center, the controls, we have a master control that says, okay, we're getting ready to come in. We're going to follow this commercial. You're on next. And so we got a lot of folks doing audio, video, putting the knobs so we can make it on air. And so there's quite a few of the folks behind the scene there. But as far as weather goes, it's me. It's just me. And then I hand it off to Dan and a weekend person later on in the day.
So are there times then, because I guess weather is so unpredictable, but there are times you say you're primarily in the morning 2 to 8, but aren't there times when it's like all hands on deck where they just need every meteorologist that can be on site and on screen to show up?
Yeah. Tornado warnings will change everything. So tornadoes are, when you can see them coming, hey, we're getting ready to go in, or I'm getting ready to drive in, or I'm going to, watch the storm real closely, that sort of thing. So at that point, we start using, as many as we have that are available. We have right now a group of 3. We had a group of 4. One guy, he went to back to East Tennessee. So he left us. So we now have a staff of 3 meteorologists. So sometimes it gets really tight. Sometimes it's busy and it's a weekend or it's a weekend night. And you're up at weird hours in the morning. So it can be pretty hairy at times.
Don't tell Jenny there's an opening. We don't want to lose her.
You'll need a female to join your team.
We have had a female, and we can certainly use another one. I agree.
Yeah.
But I like Jenny as my partner, so
Yeah.
I'm not giving her up. Okay, so before coming into the science specialist role, I taught 6th grade science, and part of our 6th grade standards, we had a whole weather and climate unit.
Mhm.
And it was one of my favorites because it is so much fun. It's one of those opportunities in science, at least in middle school, where kids have experience with weather, right? No matter where they live, no matter what they come from, they live in the same world. So we have this experience with weather. And one of the things that was the most fascinating, though, is the location of Arkansas. And we hear this all the time. It's typical Arkansas weather. It can, have high temperatures and then snow and a tornado all in the same week.
Yes.
That's easy for me, as a science teacher, or as easy for someone who doesn't have the same background as you do in meteorology. What are your thoughts when you hear people say that? Is it as unpredictable as we think it is, or is it more normal?
Yeah.
What's the deal with the weather here?
Each part of the country that I've lived in has its own unique weather and unique way of forecasting. So you have to certainly learn and it's really based on topography or in relationship to the oceans and the Gulf of Mexico and things like that. So when I lived in Kansas, a lot of times we watched thunderstorms develop just south of the house. And it happens so many times you're going, it's like, why? When I was 5 years old, I'm going, why is a cloud forming there? And why doesn't it form over here? So in this case, Arkansas, where we live here in Northwest Arkansas, we live on the Ozark Plateau. It's an area that has risen up from eastern Oklahoma, from Fort Smith and say Tahlequah. It starts to climb, and we get on this plateau. So, if you could see the wind, you would see the wind that is blowing is trying to adjust itself when it comes up over the plateau. Because if you force wind upward, well, you know what it's doing? It's going up. And so when air rises, it tends to want to produce cloud cover. It also tends to cool when it rises. And so we somewhat are protected here in Northwest Arkansas in that our summers, when you see Kansas City at 98, we're still 88, 89. And so it's because part of it is because of the Ozark Plateau. Part of it's because of all the trees we have. So there are some unique qualities in Northwest Arkansas. The plateau makes a big difference in our severe weather. As a lot of folks, if you watch us, you hear what we call the Fayetteville split or the Fayetteville fizzle.
Yep.
The fizzle happens because of the topography and the way the winds are associated with the topography. It messes up the wind, and what was once smooth, turning and moving, suddenly becomes like, oh wait, I'm doing what? You're trying to make, and weather doesn't like that. It likes to be running smoothly on a really flat surface.
Oh, that's really cool. So we're elevated up, and it's just kind of breaking it all.
Yeah, it makes a difference. It causes weaker tornadoes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have never had an EF4 in this area. It's been River Valley or eastward of that area.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. We rarely have EF3s. It's a rare thing. Never a 5. So there's some protection there, and you can see it there. It shows up in the historical data that something is here that's not allowing those storms to form. It could always, if you get that right thing, but we've seen some pretty good ones come through that have not done it. So
that's awesome. Fayetteville fizzle, not complaining.
Yes.
I love it though. I love severe weather. I mean, I think it is so exciting.
Obviously I do too.
Yeah. So do you, speaking, Carly saying that she loves severe weather, I'm a runner, a big runner, and I like pretty much every season but summer. I'm not a big summer fan because of the heat and the humidity, but fall, anywhere from about 40 to 50 is my favorite running weather. So I'm pretty in love with what we're having right now, except for this. Okay. So do you have a particular time of the year that you love to forecast the weather, or season that you really love?
You have 3 choices. What do you think?
I would think the fall would be so fun.
I mean, I got three voices here, so I'm going to just say 3 choices. What do you think my favorite would be?
I'm going to go with
go ahead.
spring.
Spring and severe weather.
Yeah.
But the fall, there's some severe weather because it's
fall,
hurricane
no.
season.
Not the fall. No,
Fine.
to me, it's spring. And the reason why I like spring, I like green, I like new growth, I like the milder temperatures, I like when the humidity starts to come back. And so that gets me real excited. Severe weather, yes, it happens. It happens in the fall, as Carly was saying. We have these, and it could happen anytime, honestly. Even we had a killer tornado on December 31st, New Year's Eve morning, several years back in Cincinnati, which is West Arkansas. It's just to the south of Silent Springs. And Dan Scoff and I, we were not on the air together. I was at home on Twitter screaming to whoever would listen to me. And that was New Year's Eve morning at about 6 o'clock. So we know it can happen anytime, but the spring is my favorite. I look forward to the new growth, and I'm an outdoorsman. So I want to be, I like landscaping. I like to planting flowers and watching them grow. And so, yeah, I'm born to be outdoors.
Yeah.
The spring is fun.
So spring, yeah.
I've got two questions from students. One kind of piggybacks off that question we just talked about. What is the most dangerous natural disaster that you've seen or that you witnessed?
To me, the most dangerous is lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lightning, we take it for granted way too many times, and we have too many people hurt and injured each year from lightning. It scares me the most. Because I know enough about tornadoes, I can chase and also know where to avoid. So I'm pretty good at that. Now, a lot of folks aren't. I get that. And a lot of folks would probably say tornadoes, but they rarely happen. And so with that being such a rarity, lightning is the most common, and lightning is also the most common killer of, well, not the most common. Flooding is also right there. So it's those things that you kind of go, you tend to take for granted, and not the hurricanes and the tornadoes, which get all the public, scrutiny on and the publicity from that. But to me, lightning, most dangerous. Because I'll go outside to the mailbox during a thunderstorm. It's like, no, don't do that, Or you're out there on your phone at a baseball field and you're getting ready to throw your pitch or whatever you're doing. Pitchers wouldn't hold phones probably, but they're on a diamond elevated, and this dark cloud is over top of them going, it hasn't lightninged yet, but it could. And so to me, it's lightning.
Yeah, I think people get frustrated or annoyed when games or whatever are delayed. But speaking to that experience, my high school prom date, when I was a senior, 2 weeks after prom, he was outside with a catering company, King Catfish in Eastern Arkansas, and was on the trailer that was attached to a tree. By a chain. The tree was struck by lightning, and he was killed instantly.
Whoa.
And
Wow.
so, that just rocked us,
So
our
you have
little
a story.
small town. So, and my dad also owns a lot of farmland, and one of his farmers had a shovel on his back and was out in the fields, and the lightning hit the shovel, and he was killed instantly. So I will speak to affirm what you're saying, that lightning is very scary.
We all have our individual natural disasters, don't we?
Yeah.
Gosh, that's
So
terrifying.
in our STEAM professions, we often are told like 60 to 80% of the jobs that are available now didn't exist like 20 or 40 years ago. So we had a question from Springdale. Mrs. Lamb's class says, what does the future of meteorology look like with the technological advancements that are coming up? Or can you predict anything that you can foresee changing in meteorology?
That's a great question. So the future in meteorology obviously has a lot of little fingers you can go into. Air pollution, right? It's a big deal. Climate, a big deal. And there are a lot of businesses, and especially now that we're, if you've heard the news recently, you've heard green come up a lot. And so there are companies that are going to become more green that certainly meteorology is going to probably have a part. So we're not sure how yet, but there's going to be some kind of a role there. So that'll be interesting to watch in the next 10 years on where this starts to maybe finger off too. But look, we have a big trucking industry here in Northwest Arkansas. Truckers need to know about weather. So there are like Walmart has its own meteorology department. They're going, hey, avoid I-70 at mile marker 14. There's a tornado coming in that direction. Don't go there. Give yourself about 40 minutes, stop for a moment, So pollution, government, National Weather Service. However, the National Weather Service is interesting. They have been big for so long, but they are starting to automate a little bit where they're getting away from a lot of the bodies that are in the building, where it's becoming more of an automated type of thing. They're trying to get rid of more. How that's going to play out in the next 10 years, I don't know. So that may be kind of neutral, or we may be losing ground with job openings there, but gaining ground in other places. So as far as television is concerned, television's tough. We've been watching television morph and change. It's more online here in the last several years. TVs are not as important as your computer now. So we're not really sure exactly how the TV role is going to change in the next 5 or 10. It seems to be neutral, or maybe slightly not as great a career. It's also a very difficult career to get into and to hold on to.
So speaking of getting into that career, what kind of, is it a meteorology degree, a bachelor's degree, or what kind of education background does it take to get in?
There are a couple of options. There's a Bachelor of Arts. There's also a Bachelor of Science. There's also anything else you want to go. If you want to go further than that, research, and all that stuff. But typically it's a Bachelor of Science in most colleges. Some places they only study just meteorology itself. Like Mississippi State has a program for just broadcast meteorology, broadcast meteorology. So there are a lot of colleges around. I went to the University of Kansas. In our area, University of Oklahoma is a very strong atmospheric science weather school. So is Texas A&M. Those are the two strongest ones in the area. Although I went to the University of Kansas, where we had a smaller atmospheric science curriculum there, and I did just fine. Whatever. But so for that, there's that to go through meteorology in college. Obviously, a lot of math, because meteorology is based on math equations. How the atmosphere goes up, goes down, spins around, all invisible. So math describes it. Computers, technology, especially now, programming, English, speaking. So there's a lot of things that are involved with it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We have a question from Brightfield Middle School in Bentonville. They're studying hailstorms and precipitation events. And they want to know how many hours you work per day. And then as a follow-up question, one of the students, Cade, asked, what's generally like a salary range for a meteorologist?
Yeah, tough. I mean, salary ranges are, I would say they're averaging a little lower here recently. There's been some changes there, but the salary range, there are 210 broadcast television markets in the country, right? And so just in broadcast alone, you could make starting out with a minimum wage salary. Mm-hmm. And then when you move up into the bigger markets, that range would go much higher. Like the top markets in the country, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, those meteorologists that are chief are probably making over $1 million. Wow. They're high paid, like Al Roker, making multiple $1 million probably a year. So there's a huge variance. When I started out, I went to Kirksville, Missouri, market 200. We had very few farmers, very small little community. I was making minimum wage. So it was nothing. But I knew I couldn't stay long because I had student loans due. So I had to get out of there as fast as I could. So I was there for 6 months. But it was low pay. And, you got to just move yourself up and be patient a little bit and smile a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
go ahead.
So is that like a 40-hour-a-week job, or do they expect her to do overtime because the weather's so unpredictable?
Yeah, typically it's a 40-hour. A lot of times it's even less than that, where when you're kind of in broadcasting, where you got this, you might do a 6 p.m. show, then you got this hour and a half or maybe 2-hour lunch, and you come back at 9 or 10. So you kind of like work before the show, then take a little bit of a break. And so, but it probably averages around 40. Of course, severe weather changes everything where you're there 12 hours a day and you're waiting for the next guy to come in and that sort of thing.
Well, speaking of the workday, do you at some point want to be the night guy, or do you enjoy being on in the mornings? I mean, I know that's a different clock for your body. So
yeah. If I told you I want the nights, my chief meteorologist, Dan Scoff, would go, what do you say? He may be watching.
Okay.
No, I have no interest. I actually did the nights in Northwest Arkansas as the chief. I left in 2006. So I was the chief here my first time around. This is my second time I've lived in Northwest Arkansas.
Oh, wow.
So being back as the morning person, obviously, we have a really tight group of people that are a lot of fun to be around. And we have we're done. We do our thing in 3 hours. Yeah. So we can get our whole day done in 3 hours with the broadcasting, all together. So I like to work in the mornings. The mornings tend to give me a little bit more family time. So I'm off in the afternoons and I can spend time with my family. I go to bed early, not too early. But for me, I like the mornings, especially in my position where I am now at my age.
Did your like when your kids were growing up, did they love that you knew all of the weather stuff? Because my daughter, I don't know all of the weather stuff, but I will know little bits of it. Yeah. And I try to tell her things and she shuts me down immediately. Yeah. And she's 5 and she wants no part of it. But I feel like, you would know everything. that would just be, maybe I was a nerdy kid and embraced it, but I just would want to know it all.
Funny, Carly, sometimes I hear in the conversation in the room, I wonder what the weather is for tomorrow. He's like, well, why don't you ask a weather guy? I'm right here. Well, the phone says this. I'm going, what? The phone? Why would you do that?
Is more reliable.
I'm right here. Yeah. I think that whatever was cool and exciting to the kids wore off pretty quickly because it just was a normal routine that dad goes to work, dad's on television, and okay, no big deal.
Did any of them go into the weather field?
No, at least not yet. There was some talk. There was some thought. My oldest daughter was thinking about doing that, but she so far has chosen not to.
We had a question from Mrs. Nation's class in Prairie Grove, asking what college
Prairie
university.
Grove.
Yeah. What college university did you attend? Because you talked about, you didn't go right into meteorology. You did it several years later, but I don't know if you mentioned that earlier, what college university you attend. You mentioned Mississippi State has a program. And if you could follow up by saying any other programs that you know of.
Yeah, I went to the University of Kansas to get my degree in atmospheric science, which is meteorology. It's the study of the atmosphere. So I didn't take broadcasting there. It was offered, but I didn't do it. I wasn't really, leaning toward necessarily broadcasting, although I loved doing radio and that sort of thing. So that's the University of Kansas. I also started simultaneously at the Johnson County Community College. So I went to Johnson County Community College and also University of Kansas at the same time, getting some classes out of the way that tend to be a little bit cheaper. And I like the smaller classroom size where I got to know the teacher. She got to know me. I mentioned University of Oklahoma is a good meteorology school. Texas A&M is strong. They're good. Another strong program. They're very confident. Penn State believes they're the best. And it's like, no. And there are other schools around the nation that have it. I think there's one in Florida. Oh, there's one in Florida. University of Florida has I think it's Florida, maybe Florida State. Anyway, one of those two schools has it. Hurricanes.
Well, now that you speak of these different programs, when I think of atmospheric science, I think of, going into meteorology but I know there's got to be so many more careers that degree could lead you into. So what are some other things that people do with that degree? Yeah.
You could do your own business, like you don't necessarily need a studio to produce weathercast. You can do it now with technology, do it with your cell phone. Your own business being maybe a consulting meteorology. meteorologist. I've done that before when I was consulting for the AMP on their concerts, trying to keep people out of the storm. There are trucking industries, there's railroad industries, there are airline industries that all need a meteorologist. Of course, military always needs weather information. So there's a group of meteorologists that works for them. Government, air pollution, climatology, different studies in that regard. And even some businesses like, there are some large businesses that will hire a weather team for, I don't know what, but different things. So along those lines, of course, you could be meteorologist for land, for air, for maybe for around the ocean, on islands. So it could take you anywhere around the world.
That's awesome. Well, I know that when I think of a meteorologist, I just think of the people that I see on screen, but I realize that there's the job is a lot more diverse than that. So
yeah,
thanks for sharing that. I think, Carly, we're going to ask maybe one or two more questions. So did you see any more, Dustin, from the audience, or did we want to?
There was one from the chat about the green screen, if you're allowed to wear green.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, not allowed to wear green. So the green screen is behind me. You can't see it because it's always filled with something, right? It's the computer with the camera, inside the camera says, okay, I see green. So on that green, I'm going to put whatever you decided to put on there. So if I wore green, you could see what I had for lunch.
Yeah, you can wear something that's green on you, right? As long as your tie could be green. Could it? No.
If my tie is green, no, it would be
Really?
Yeah, you'd see weather right there on my tie. So
that's kind of cool though.
See, I thought that it was just your the background, the part of you but anything on you too. Yeah.
So an idea for Halloween, by doing this is dressing up in a green suit. You can't see me, but putting on a Michael Jackson glove and just doing
yes.
That would have been good.
You've got to do that. That would be so awesome.
What I thought about doing.
Yeah.
We support it.
Okay.
We would love it.
Coming soon. I need some glitter and glam on the glove, I think.
Ooh, yes. What is it? Bedazzle? I don't know.
Bedazzle, yes.
Yes. All right. So if you could go back in time, what are some tips or advice that you would give the 12-year-old version of Rick Katzfey?
Start early.
Start early. So like school-wise or?
Yeah, start early. Mm-hmm.
By start early, do you mean like in terms of what you're focusing on with classes, or just what you're doing outside of school, or what do you mean by that?
I think all of it. I think one is take the classes that your mom and dad are pushing you on right now. It's like, you're going, you don't get it. I didn't get it till I was 18, 19. I was out of school. I started getting it. I started kind of going, I see why they, okay, yeah, I got you. So if I just would have done that and got those things out of the way and already had that intelligence on what was there. And in my case, if I would have started meteorology at my age, when I should have gone to college, I would not be here. I probably would not be here. I would be somewhere totally different because they were pulling meteorologists out of the college and putting them on television. I would have had a much more significant career. Probably already retired by now. But anyway, God put me here. I'm here for a reason. I'm here because of family. And so I'm not taking anything away from where I am. But I just know that if I started earlier, that career change would have been so different than where it is today.
No, excellent advice. And thank you for saying that, because we have students from, again, all across Northwest Arkansas joining us from Brightfield Middle School and Bentonville, Central Junior High in Springdale, Kirksey, Rogers, Prairie Grove, and Lincoln. So you're our local celebrity, Rick, and we appreciate your time for giving us some words of wisdom and some kind of behind the scenes scoop on what it's like to be a weatherman and in studio live on the air. So thank you very much for us. And on behalf of all the students, I wanted to thank you for doing so.
It has been my pleasure. All right. So I hope to see all of you tomorrow morning, 5:00.
Yes.
Sorry about being so dark. I got this. This is my lighting here. Like you can't see it, but there, it's a lamp. So
I love it.
No, it's probably darker than you. I think it looks, you're good.
I think you look great.
Oh, okay. All right, great.
We're a lot less picky.
You're doing the No Shave November. Yeah.
I am. Yes, my wife hates it.
I wondered how your wife and Dan's wife and
it's going to be a long month.
Is Mike Susko doing it? I can't remember.
I don't know if he's doing it. I have not seen him recently.
Yeah,
I don't think he is.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
So.
If he
See,
is,
I know all of y'all. Like y'all are on.
Yeah.
I'm a weather nerd, and even though I can look it up on my phone, I still watch y'all at like 5 a.m., 6 p.m., 10 p.m.
Thank you, Jeannie. Appreciate that, you guys. Hey, it's been a pleasure being on here. I'm so thankful for everybody that was watching. So yeah.
Well, we are so grateful. Thank you so much.
We'll be doing this every hour on the hour. So we'll take a quick intermission break and come back at 10 o'clock with our next guest. But again, Rick, thank you. You've been great. And this is recorded. So for all those that couldn't watch the full recording or might have joined us late, we will have this on our Facebook page, Northwest Arkansas Education Service Co-op, as well as our website, starfishnw.org. So thank you all for now.
Thank you so much, Rick. Good to see you.
Guys.